Yeah, just the second part. The NEC then undertook a process from last night to decide on the way forward with the coach and what happens to the coach. And by 10 o'clock today, the NEC had responded in favor of parting ways with the coach. But there are still administrative issues which needs to be attended to. So one will just say in terms of the NEC resolution to part ways with the coach. And of course, all the admin things which has to do with the legal formalities and all this are outstanding. And because we called you here, we just needed to communicate the National Executive Committee decisions, and all admin things will be taken care of by us as administration. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Molefi. I think that is straightforward. You don't have any questions, right? Mr. Johanna, you don't take any, please.
Thank you, Nomsa. The CEO, now the obvious question would be, what's next for the association in terms of the appointment of a new coach? Also looking at the fact that it's a couple of months before the AFCON qualifiers. Parting ways with Coach Ntseki, did you also consider that? Thank you.
So as I said, this was an NEC decision which was taken in a round robin. So what is going to happen from here? Mr. Maluleka and his committee will then give us direction. And we hope that we will reconvene early next week to give you the process which will unfold going there. But I think they were indeed mindful of that.
Next question. If you can just say your name, the organization you represent, and to who the question is directed to.
Mr. CEO, what reasons were given to the coach? Is it merely for failure to qualify? Were those reasons qualified to the coach as to why he is being let go? And secondly, the technical side of things explain that they make those recommendations, and I would think that when a situation like this, they too will have something to answer to. What do you ask of them? Is Mr. Ntseki the only one who will fall, or will there be some sort of repercussions just trickling down to those who make the recommendation and those who work with them?
Mr. Maskepesa said it was a round-robin decision. Of course, as the head of admin, I still need to engage with the coach and talk about this and all this other way forward. But as I said, it was a round-robin decision. Of course, when the NEC seat will then deal with all these other issues you are requesting. And as we meet after Easter, Mr. Maluleka and his team will also tell you what is the way forward and what happened to others, as you say.
Mali Skipti from Vision Free Sports Radio. This is just for the technical side of recommending a coach. I just wanted to find out, so you mentioned that your job is not to hire or to fire, but it's just to recommend the coach. What are some of the criteria that you look at in terms of hiring a coach? Do you look at experience at maybe club level, development, PSL or something, how long they've served in national teams? What are some of the criteria that you use in order to appoint a coach at the highest level, being the national side? Thank you.
Yeah, thanks very much. I think we shared the criteria that has been used with the media, but however, some of it, you need to have coaching qualifications, you need to have an international experience, coaching experience. Yes, the track record, understanding the organization as well. Those are the things that most we require, but there are many, I think there are more than 12 that we we need from the coach to be appointed. Thank you very much.
From the Newsroom Africa. Just to the CEO, obviously now it's the look of the World Cup qualifiers, which are a lot more difficult to qualify from. Is that the mandate for the next person who will come in? Will we be given time after that should those qualifiers not come together? And number two, we're only a few months away from Vision 2022, in the mold of Vision 2022. What now for the national men's team? Because I'm sure you've heard South Africans, are there any more drawing boards that we actually could go to now?
Okay, let me start with the first one. Of course, the technical committee will give direction. Normally, the guidelines from administration we get from technical committee, as he said, Mr. Maluk, when they recommend, they also recommend milestones which needs to be achieved. So it will be them who will be guiding us because we are a structural organization. The board takes the decision. We are the implementers. We are the end people who come and implement whatever has been recommended. We reduce into a contract and to a contract with the coach. Vision 2022, I don't want us to be sidetracked by what happened now. Of course, each and every policy needs time to be reviewed. But it is important to remind you that it is under Vision 2022 that this senior national team went to Egypt and participated in that AFCON and did well in that AFCON, even though we did not win that AFCON. We were looking to build on it. Yes, of course, it is a setback in terms of Vision 2022. But let us not just isolate it. When time comes to say these are the results of Vision 2022, of course, it will have its failures. And this, of course, will be one of the failures in terms of that Vision 2022, that we had wanted to be a number 3 consistently in Africa. We did not do that. And of course, the coming leadership, remember 2022 is the new elections. So those who are elected may come with another policy to say, maybe let us change, let us work this way. Of course, planning is a continuous process. There are no boards which will finish, I can assure you, because we always plan. For as long as we live, we plan. So this plan is coming to an end, I agree. But there will be more plannings, and that more plannings does not mean finishing the board. It means improving on what you could not achieve and looking to the future positively. Because once we say the boards are finished, then nothing is going to happen. Then we are stagnant. We are not going to talk to football development or the mandate of this association.
Just 2 questions. One, just clarity on whether the coach, the decision from the NEC from last night's meeting, whether the decision has been communicated with the coach and his representatives. And then 2, coach, after the game against Sudan, owned up for his part in the failure to qualify. What's the association's take on their part in obviously the failure of getting there? After all, he did not appoint himself. He was appointed by the association.
Let me start with the last one. That's why, as the association, because the aim has always been to qualify, we have apologized to say, look, it happened. And we own up that as the association, we failed the nation. You don't apologize if you don't take the blame. So the National Executive Committee, when they sent me here, they took the blame and said, we need to apologize to the nation to say, we know what it does emotionally to the nation. And of course, the second one, as I said, those decisions just came in around 10 o'clock. Part of us as admin is to go and sit down with the coach and his representative and pave a clear way forward. But there has not been any formal communication to the coach, that I can assure you.
Mr. CEO, my name is Lucis from 424. Is there any reason why the SAFA president is not here on this day making this announcement?
Of course, the NEC has mandated Mr. Maluleke to be here. Remember, it's the NEC which takes decisions, so they decide who to mandate. So they've mandated Mr. Maluleke to be here. So if there were any questions directed to the president or NEC, Mr. Maluleke is equally an NEC member. He can take those questions.
Can we give the mic to Backstreet? Mark Strain, Times Live.co.za. CEO, just with the short notice to the World Cup qualifiers beginning, can you find someone at such short notice? You can't put in your mind to that. I know you've only just made the decision to release the coach. A second question is, there was a meeting with the coach yesterday, and apparently it became hard for SAFA and the coach to see eye to eye. Did that play any role in the decision? And a third question, if you'll allow me, is was the coach offered the under-20 head coaching position and then that withdrawn partly due to the confrontational nature of the meeting? Thank you.
Mark, yesterday I was never part of that meeting. I will not talk to the meeting, which was not, I'm not aware of. Or maybe you want to hear from Mr. Maluleka. I don't know of that meeting, but you directed it to me. I don't know of that meeting. And like I said to you, all administrative issues to deal with this decision will be carried after I will hear the mandate from the National Executive Committee and deal with that. The issue of short notice, I think also Mr. Maluleka from technical point will address all your questions. I think you just directed them to a wrong person. You are crying at the wrong funeral. That's why I'm saying, because you are referring it to a meeting which I don't know of, maybe Mr. Maluleka knows of you. And,
No, thanks very much. I think I'm not aware of the meetings. I can't talk about the meetings. What I can only respond is on the technical issue. I think to talk about the time frame. You know, as technical committee, we still have to meet with the coach as agreed. We know we must have a report of the 2 games. And after getting the report, it's then the technical committee can then agree that what is the way forward in terms of whether there should be a replacement of other coach. How do we then do that within the short space of time? But that will be entirely the recommendation by the technical committee. After actually we should have also have a report so that even if the coach, the new coach is recruited, then he must then get the report of the previous coach, what happened, what transpired in terms of qualification. Thanks very much.
Was the coach offered the under-20 national coach, and then it was withdrawn?
No, like I said, as a technical committee, we never met with the coach. Hence, we know after the tournament, the coach has to come and report to the technical committee, give us a report. We never had a meeting, such meetings with the coach.
Before you, let's give you the signal we have spoken before.
Sipa from SABC News. Firstly, so what you are saying is that a decision was made to let go of the coach without having received any sort of report from him as to what could have gone wrong. Is that how you usually do things? Is that how it's supposed to happen, where a decision has to be made on the future of the coach without a report from him? Number 2, are there any potential coaches that have already been identified to replace him? And what about rumors that Carlos Quiroz and Benny McCarthy and Gavin Hunt are some of those coaches that are likely to replace Molefi Ntseki?
I suppose the first question was directed to me. Like I said earlier on, the appointment of the coach is done at the level of the National Executive Committee. And for the recusal of the coach or the dismissal or the termination of the contract is due to contractual obligations. It's at that level. At our level at technical, we deal with technical matters. So that is why I'm saying, I'm referring to that we need the report of the coach to engage on, so that we can be able to have that report in our possession, even if there is a coach that will be appointed, so that as a technical committee should be a continuous thing. But on the level of termination of the contract, that is done at that level, and it's through a contractual obligation that we are not privy to that contract of the coach as the technical committee.
Can you give it to John Mark? John?
I'm John Mark from the Citizen newspaper. Having followed Bafana for 20 years, what we've seen is pretty much a constant decline in the performance of the national team, with coach after coach after coach being sacked. Yes, there's been from a SAFA perspective, and with Danny Jordan not present, perhaps Mr. Molefi can answer this. Is anything taken into consideration other than the coach, and is it not time to look at what's going on beyond just hiring and firing coaches over and over and over again? Thank
you. I'm not sure that I get the question very clear, but I will attempt. And it's unfortunate because the CEO said I must answer such questions on behalf of the president, of which I'm not the president, I'm the chair of the technical. I think we have a program as a technical committee. I think the other thing that we should also overemphasize is that maybe the plans that have been put in place specifically on the performance of all these national teams should be privy to all the media houses, so that we can check what is happening actually in football, especially in SAFA. We have our technical master plan document, which I think we must share with everyone who's happening. And I understand it's frustrating for the coaches to be now and then chopped and removed, but hence there are a clause and certain contractual obligations that I think it is also something that it should be taken care of by the NEC, not the technical committee. Thanks very much.
Mr. Chavala.
Thank you. Timber Chavala, Joseph from Sports. Mr. Malek, I can pick up what you're trying to do. But unfortunately, yeah. The coaches have been changed in South African football, but the NEC and the president is still the same, which happens to be a big outcry. What happens next to those?
I'm not sure the aim of the question, but it's supposed to be the NEC has been are elected on after 4 years by the members. And it's different from coaches because coaches are employees. They are employed in terms of the contracts or the vacancies that the association might have. But in terms of executive, they serve their terms, and if the terms got to the end, it's finished until maybe if they are re-elected in the position.
My question, too, I think first is for you, Mr. Maluleka. Since you are, I'm assuming you're not an employee, since you're saying that the NEC is voted for, which would be quite bizarre that you work for SAFA but you're not an employee. But do you feel by extension the blame should also come to you and the technical team? Do you feel you've let the nation down? Do you look back and say maybe we recommended a coach who shouldn't have been? And to both of you, why did you take the decision to come and communicate the message if you felt some of the questions you may not be able to answer?
Maskepe, there are no questions which are not being answered here. Unless if you say you want your own answers. But what we are saying is, of course, Mr. Maluleka had said to you, the NEC is elected, and I must correct you, Mr. Maluleka is not an employee. Mr. Maluleka is an elected official. That's why we said he's the chairman of technical committee and a member of NEC. And he says to you, the life cycle, you are living in a democratic country. the coaches, yes, they are contractual relationship, but 2022, as I said, it's the year of elections. And if people say, no, look, under your leadership, Mr. Maluleka, and the leadership of everyone, we no longer want you, those people will exercise their rights and vote. So that's what he is saying. In terms of the constitution, as democratic as we are, we cannot just wake up and say, Mr. Maluleka, and all of you go. There are procedures, and procedures is that the term comes to end in 2022, and 2022 there will be elections, and members will then decide what they need to. First, they will comment about all these incidents, because there is every year in their 4-year term, every year there is a Congress where they report administratively, technically, all these things are taken to members, members debate them. And if members feel that the executive has failed them, the members will take that decision in line with the constitution. That's what he was trying to say. He's not trying to hide or say what he's saying. There is a constitutional thing. There is voters who put confidence and take that confidence.
Let's not take that dialogue with Mr. Maskere.
The other question was for Mr.
Maluleka. It was for Mr. Maluleka to say.
No, it was 2 questions. One was here. The one that you answered was the second one.
Okay.
So the question was that, you're head of technical, and you are the ones who recommended the coach. By extension, if you feel the information down, and if that is the case, wouldn't it also be prudent for you to say, even though I'm not employed, I'm willing to also step down because I feel I may have information down?
No, you'd remember I've told you that we still have to meet to interrogate the report of the coach on behalf of the technical committee. We recommended the coach, unless the coach is telling us, would tell us in his report that we were unable. But what we recommended the coach, that we felt that coach is capable, that coach has all the quality. Unfortunately, he did not qualify. That is an obligation, it's a contractual obligation. But we still maintain until such time we had a report from the technical committee that we agreed and we apologized to say we made mistake. But as I'm speaking now, we still saying we recommended the coach to the NEC. Then this report from the NEC that the coach has been sacked will go back to the technical committee and debate in that level.
Thanks, Temple from ENC. Okay, Mr. Maluleka, the reality of the matter is that, yes, a decision has been taken to part ways with the coach, but the qualifiers are coming back now. Yes, we're talking about you still have to review the report of the coach, but as the technical committee, how soon are we expected to appoint the coach, bearing in mind again that there's issues of time involved for the qualifiers, to avoid a situation where you appoint a coach and then maybe come back next year and say, no, he did not have enough time to prepare. That's why we did not qualify for the World Cup. And 2, just for clarity, can you name the other technical members in the team? Thanks.
Maybe before you answer that question, Mr. Maluleka, there was a question from Sipo. He said, do you have any potential replacements for the outgoing coach? I mean, he thought that question was not answered. Thank you.
No, we don't have anybody. We don't have anyone.
Repeat your question again, please.
Yeah, no, I think you talk about time, the issue of time frame. Like I said, the NEC will then communicate through the CEO to the committees. The CEO is the one who's communicating with the committees where I'm chairing. The technical committee as well will be given this information. And obviously we had to reconvene as soon as possible. And in that meeting is when we can be guided, because the instruction will be from the National Executive Committee that we want you to go through the processes of getting another coach. Then that will be the mandate that will be carried on by the technical committee. And in terms of time and what we've alluded, it will be taken into consideration. And the members of the technical team, the vice chairperson, maybe the few is Buddha Matata, and we've got David Nyati, we've got Sudesh Singh, we've got the Anna Neima, and I think that is a quarter from Free State. And yeah, I think those are the members of the technical committee.
We take the last 5 questions. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we end 6.
So once more, Mr. CEO, last year you reported a financial surplus of, I believe, 53 million for the organization for the financial year. Does that mean that there are no shackles as far as the quality of coach that will be procured or sourced by the technical committee, or will finances be a factor like they were the last time the head coach was appointed?
Well, let me not go through the last time because I was not here, but Mr. Maluleke says it was never an issue. But I don't foresee us having the issue of finances when we appoint a coach. There will be a criteria set, and then we'll get a coach which is recommended by the technical committee.
CEO, a question for you. I know you're not long in the job. So, and you know, there's a lot of trying to play the blame game. Without doing that, to follow up on John T's and Timber's and some of the other questions, if SAFA's leadership were to, at some stage, acknowledge that there might be a need for a fundamental restructuring of South African football, because, like some people have said, we keep appointing coaches, but either we've got a coach who's good, who's expected to perform miracles because the team is never as good as the opposition because we haven't produced the players. We have a coach who's inexperienced and falls flat. If SAFA could acknowledge that, I think it would help with a lot of public confidence. But that doesn't seem to happen, as John T says, for 20 years, kind of the same thing, Groundhog Day in South African football. And I don't think SAFA is alone responsible. I think a rich PSL and a poor amateur doesn't help the game, and no development. You know, development can't be implemented because some of that finance should go to development, I think. But sorry, long question. Yeah, I think yeah, and in fairness to you, you obviously have been very short in the job, but I wonder if that's something that could help.
Mark, I get what you're saying and also what John T has raised. But it goes to the constituent of football. You know, when they meet in the Congress, it's not just to elect. It's first to make sure that they check programs which were undertaken by this leadership. And of course, where they're not happy, they will then vote them out or vote them in if they are happy. So I think that question in itself, it needs the membership of football. If they think that there are reforms which needs to take place, they need to come to that General Assembly and say, we want to move that we have these reforms. And of course, as you say, focus on development. What are we doing in terms of that report of Vision 2022? It will show that. And then members have powers in terms of the constitution to say, maybe we're taking a wrong direction, because sometimes the leadership may not see it's taking the right decision, the wrong decision, but the people who voted them, who have the power to say to them, we have given you a mandate, they can say you did not accomplish the mandate. That's why we are not retaining you. But if they are happy and they vote them, you'll have continuous voting of them in the office. So it rests solely not with us as administrators. We remember we're messengers and we're implementers of decisions which are taken at policy level. But the members, which are 52 regions and associate members, need to say in their meeting, if they feel there is a new direction which needs to be taken, they need to say that in that meeting.
We have the last 2 questions. It's Mbali and who else?
Just going back to, piggybacking off of what Martin was saying. Johnson spoke about the decline, yes, over the years. I think we can agree that there is a problem. So with that in mind, what are you going to do to ensure that we don't find ourselves in this position again? Because clearly maybe there's something that needs to be adjusted in terms of the criteria or the things we look at in terms of how we hire coaches. Maybe there need to be more stringent measures in terms of the kinds of people that we give this job to. How do we then change this problem And also, do you agree maybe that there is a problem?
First of all, in terms of what Mr. Maluleka said, there will be a report received from the coach, and you'll take the lessons from there. And going forward, the technical committee will then decide and say, this is how we go. But one will not say there is a problem. Out of 54 countries, 24 countries have qualified, 20 have not. That does not mean that there is a problem. Yes, there is a disappointment that we did not qualify, but we should not make that a problem. But it means there are things, processes which needs to be relooked at. And the technical committee will make the recommendation to the NEC in line with the report which they will have received from the technical committee to say this is what needs to change. But we should not then start to shame and say there is a problem. Yes, there is disappointment, which we understand for everyone. And of course, what Jonty raised, the deadline, that's what I say. It goes back to the members. Members need to come because one may argue to say, yes, you may have deadline here, but there are certain ways where there are improvements. So you don't want to pick issues and leave others. So that's why I said at the end of this Vision 2022, when they go to the Congress, the results of Vision 2022 will be placed there for everyone to interrogate it and ask it. And the leadership will then say, did we achieve? What haven't we achieved? How do we improve going forward? As I said, planning is a continuous process. But I will not say not qualifying is a problem. Yes, it is a disappointment because the aim was high that we need to qualify. And of course, with the lessons which we have learned throughout this process, the technical committee will consider that and make the recommendation when they are looking for a new coach.
Once again. CEO, I'm sorry if I'm repeating again. Just for clarity, are we now looking for somebody who's going to specifically give us a real good shot at trying to get to the World Cup? Or is it a sense of trying now to get somebody who's going to start a new cycle, if we can put it like that? And the second question, we as the media, we speak on behalf of the South African public. I think everyone in this room has put a good point about it, of what we've seen over the last 20 years. How do you now, at this specific point, for South African football fans who are listening and who are watching through their screens right now, how do you take them into confidence that this ship is going to be turned around and a new day, new successful day is coming?
We are not going to restart the process, because if I say to you, we are going to restart, then I will be undermining the work which has been done by Coach Ntseki. You need to give it to Coach Ntseki. Coach Ntseki is not missing the group because he lost all games. We're talking about a coach who is 10 points, and the people who are going ahead of him is the 2 points difference. It shows you there is work which has been done. But of course, to answer you and to say to the counter, we are not looking to say we are going to restart the whole process, give 10 years or not. Every contract will have deliverables, and part of the deliverables from where I'm sitting and from what Mr. Maluleka says, we need a coach who will be able to take us further from where Coach Ntseki has left. We need a coach which will take us to the World Cup. That will be part of the requirement. So we aim for success. We don't aim for failure. So we cannot say we are aiming that he will start and we'll give him a chance. If he does not qualify, this happens. We look for a quality coach which will take us and improve the fortunes, because the pride of this country is when you qualify. We have done it, we have seen it with juniors. We want this Bafana also to go back there in line with Vision 2022, continuously be on top 3 and also be a big role player in international football. So we are looking for a coach which will take us there.
With your permission, will take 2 questions. Okay. Mr. Johanna and Mr. Maskete.
CEO, mine is basically not a question, but if you can just give us a recap of not much, but the coach's contract in terms of how long is it served, how much time was left in his contract, and all of those logistics that go with him leaving SAFA.
Before you answer, CEO, can you take the last question?
No, let me answer it short. And I know you are just taking your chances. Being a lawyer, I will not risk my profession by saying that. There are confidentiality clauses. There are issues, processes which are still going to take place. Unfortunately, that I cannot answer those questions because we don't know what we're going to say when we meet with the coach and this representative. But legally, in terms of the contract, there are confidentiality issues which I will not want to speak to them. I'll be breaching the same contract. Thanks.
Okay. I'm going to ask for a bit of indulgence, Mr. CEO, because I think earlier I may have misunderstood the structure of I'll ask question. Are you an employee of SAFA or an elected? No, I want my question to be clear, knowing whether he's an employee. So I can add and just say that if you are an employee and you said that some of the things you are just being sent to communicate messages and that you are just at the end of the pipeline, then my question would be, do you have confidence that you can bring fundamental change to this organization as someone who is just at the end to just implement?
Mr. Bear, I think your question, first it's maybe it is the information you have on how governance runs. Let me school you then. CEO becomes chief of administration. So administratively, I'm the first person in charge. The fundamental changes which are needed in terms of administration, I'm the accounting officer. I deal with those. There are policy decisions which are taken, like in any formal structure. I can take you back to our SABC. There's a board which takes decision. The CEO implement and come with fundamental changes you're talking to administratively, but they must be informed by a policy. Where does a policy get taken? It is through the National Executive Committee. So SAFA is not different to that. Yes, I'm an employee of SAFA. I'm heading administration. We as administrators, when I say we are at the end of it, it is that there are decisions which of course by nature are taken at that level of decision makers, which are policy makers. And there are administrative decisions, and administratively, in terms of the SAFA statute, I have my mandate on things which I need to change. I think I've responded to you now.
Thank you, CEO. Thank you, Mr. Molefi. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for coming. There is some food process in the will know where out. Thank you very much.
Sharp. You must have a masculine on the computer. I don't know. You must
Well, that was the SAFA briefing. We were just listening to that news that Bafana coach has just been fired. But we'll have more news at the top of the hour.